In a time obscured by the mists of 4,000 years past, our whimsical tale begins. Enter Lucas Trauman, a man who defies the boundaries of ordinary mortals, leaving monsters scratching their scaly heads in bewildered amazement. These creatures, flabbergasted by his audacity, dare to question how such a mere human could possibly challenge their monstrous might. They gaze at Lucas with wide, bulbous eyes, as they demand to know the secrets of his extraordinary nature. With a twinkle in his eye and a swagger in his step, Lucas proudly declares himself the apostle of justice, the pinnacle of humanity's power, and a 9-star great sage carrying the illustrious name of Lucas Trauman. Yet, despite his grandiose claims, the monsters, seething with a mix of fury and disbelief, refuse to accept their defeat. But Lucas, oh dear Lucas, he summons his magical prowess, unfurls his mystical talents, and unleashes a display of power so tremendous that it leaves the monsters in pieces, literally. It's like a monster-themed jigsaw puzzle, with bits and pieces strewn haphazardly across the battlefield. A mysterious voice echoes through the ether. It's as if the universe itself has taken on a voice, and it ain't happy. This voice, brimming with the self-importance of a divine being, materializes into the form of a demigod, who claims to be none other than God. Oh, the audacity. The demigod, draped in celestial arrogance, scolds Lucas for his wild power, accusing him of recklessly shattering the sacred laws and order of existence. The demigod declares that Lucas must face the direst of punishments, a journey to the dark void, where eternal suffering and regret shall be his constant companion. But let us now flit away from the mists of time to the present day. In a grungy alleyway, we find a poor kid being pummeled by a gang of bullies. Ah, the joys of street theater. These thugs, armed with fists, mock the young lad for being the third son of the esteemed Blake house. Amidst the bone-rattling blows, they inform the young man of their devious plans in the practical magic class, where they vow to make his walking style a permanent homage to a waddling penguin. Meanwhile, we cut to a scene where Lucas is trapped inside dark hands, wishing to become stronger. He thinks he heard something, but quickly gives up. Lucas looks around and thinks he's losing his mind. Meanwhile, poor Frey stands before his father. The old man pulls a classic parental move, disowning him. Ouch. The words pierced his heart like a dagger as his father disowned him, deeming him unworthy due to his perceived weakness. It was a painful blow, leaving Frey feeling lost and rejected. When he goes back to his house, we see that he's holding a red container. He is contemplating suicide. Returning to our trapped hero, we witnessed a battle of words between him and the taunting demigod. Anger burned within him like a roaring inferno, and he unleashed a vehement response, vowing to endure the torments inflicted upon him. Simultaneously, Frey's desperation reached its peak as he consumed a fatal potion, bringing him to the brink of death. With his final breath, Frey's dying wish resonated through the universe and weakened the seals of Lucas. It was a plea for rebirth, for the chance to rise above and witness the world with newfound power. And just like that, a miraculous transformation occurred. The protagonist, his essence now within Frey's body, awakened with a renewed spirit. His wings, once broken, were now healed, signifying a fresh start and a path toward redemption. Gazing out the window, a glimmer of determination sparkled in his eyes. He pointed towards the moon, a symbol of his resolve, and made a solemn vow to the demigod who had tormented him. Their paths would cross again, and he would face the deity with a strength that had been honed through the trials of the ages. On this somber night, shrouded in darkness, a lone figure immersed himself in the practice of martial arts, a radiant blue aura enveloping his body. Our protagonist, the MC, diligently worked to fortify his foundation, striving to collect mana and restore his once formidable strength. His eyes set on a singular goal, to regain his power and track down the elusive demigod. Throughout the long night, he persevered, pushing himself to the limit, until finally achieving a breakthrough, reaching the coveted 5-star level. However, his triumph was short-lived as he promptly began expelling all the impurities that had accumulated within his body, an unpleasant but necessary purification process. In another corner of this world, the halls of the Magic Academy buzzed with activity. Amidst the chatter, a conversation between the bullies revealed their twisted excitement for Frey. Within the school grounds, the MC found himself surrounded by curious gazes as he devoured mountains of food, leaving onlookers astounded at how he seemed to have gone weeks without eating. Having satiated his hunger, he took a moment to observe his surroundings, familiarizing himself with the workings of this new era. However, as he stepped into the classroom, his path was abruptly impeded by one of the relentless bullies who had tormented Frey earlier. As the bully brazenly demanded 10 lunch tickets and swung his fist toward the MC's head, an unexpected turn of events unfolded. In a blink of an eye, the MC mysteriously teleported behind the bully, leaving everyone in awe and bewilderment, especially catching the attention of a fiery-haired girl named Isabel. Questions danced in the air, lingering on how such a feat could be accomplished. Fueled by a surge of righteous anger, he unleashed his power, sending the tormentor hurtling across the classroom, causing a chaotic uproar. The teacher, drawn to the commotion, arrived promptly, questioning the cause of the disturbance. Upon examining the unconscious bully, the teacher caught sight of remnants of martial skills infused with mana, leaving him astounded and eager to uncover the identity of this extraordinary individual. Taking the unconscious bully away, a substitute teacher assumed the role of class supervisor. Meanwhile, the substitute teacher cast an intrigued gaze upon the girls in the class, particularly fixating on Isabelle, the spirited redhead, surprised to find the MC present. As he was notorious for skipping class, the teacher's curiosity was piqued. It was revealed that this very teacher had also been a tormentor to Frey in the past. The MC, nonchalantly, explained that he had been occupied, rendering him unable to attend classes, much to the teacher's ire. In response, the teacher decided to test the MC's knowledge with a quiz, declaring that if he failed to answer a single question, he would be held accountable for his attitude. The first question posed to the MC was to name the 3 items wielded by the legendary magic warrior King Kassajan. The mention of the name Kassajan jolted the MC, triggering a flood of memories that transported him back to their days of friendship. He reminisced about the warrior's relentless dedication to training, never resting, and even engaging in lighthearted conversations about women. In the midst of the classroom, overwhelmed by a sudden fit of laughter, the MC couldn't contain his amusement at the notion that Kassajan's legacy endured through the ages. However, his mirth was soon interrupted by Isabelle, who stood up and objected to the question. She argued that it had no relevance to the history of magecraft, as Kassajan was a martial artist who didn't rely on weapons. She believed the interpretation to be erroneous. The teacher, incensed by Isabelle's objection, approached her closely and questioned whether she intended to insult all those who trained in the techniques of the magic warrior. The situation escalated when the teacher laid his hands on her and demanded a private debate in the laboratory. Isabelle deftly pushed his hand aside, refusing to comply. The teacher, labeling her as disrespectful, then challenged her to name the 3 items associated with Kassajan. In a swift response, the MC interjected, offering his answer. To the MC's satisfaction, the teacher conceded that he was indeed correct. Meanwhile, the professor persisted in his attempts to lure Isabelle to the laboratory, forcibly grabbing her hand. Sensing the need to intervene, the MC halted him, recalling a saying from the magic warrior King Kassajan himself. He emphasized that allowing feelings of love and affection to overpower a martial artist's composure could lead them to become creatures worse than lowly beasts. Enraged by the MC's intervention, the teacher demanded that he answer the next question, determined to assert his authority. Lucas, standing tall and confident, continued to bask in the aftermath of his intellectual victory over the disreputable Professor Kevin. The entire classroom, including the orange-haired bully and Isabelle, stood in awe, their mouths hanging open in disbelief. With a nonchalant demeanor and a smug expression, Lucas reveled in the professor's defeated state. The sleazy professor couldn't comprehend how Lucas had managed to answer every single question correctly. His disbelief caused him to stumble backwards, his face filled with horror and devastation. He struggled to accept the fact that Lucas, the notorious Frey Blake, known as the Academy's worst student, had achieved such an incredible feat. As the bell signaling the lunch break rang through the halls, Lucas confidently made his way towards the cafeteria, his smug expression still intact. The lunch break was a chance for him to recharge, both physically and mentally. Isabelle couldn't help but be intrigued by Lucas's ability to answer the questions with ease. She approached him, her voice gentle and polite, and asked if he was heading for lunch. Lucas, still reveling in his triumph, glanced at her with a bewildered expression, resembling a lost puppy. Without saying a word, he promptly turned around and ignored her presence. Undeterred, Isabelle persisted and continued to follow in Lucas's footsteps, maintaining a close proximity to him. After walking a considerable distance, Lucas couldn't help but feel annoyed by the persistent pursuit. He abruptly turned around and questioned why Isabelle was following him. In response, Isabelle calmly stated that she, too, was heading to lunch. Lucas found her excessively polite manner of speaking peculiar and pointed out this repeatedly. As they entered the bustling cafeteria, the conversation between Lucas and Isabelle continued. Isabelle brought up the question that Lucas had answered in class about Schweizer's 3 training methods: assimilation, amplification, and battling. She admitted that she was only aware of the first 2 and humbly asked Lucas to teach her the battling method. As Lucas finishes his meal, his belly now ready to burst through his shirt, he gathers his dishes, ready to depart. However, Isabelle stops him, hoping to get an answer to her previous question about the battling method. She wants to understand his perspective and gain insight from his unique experiences. But Lucas, with his enigmatic demeanor, advises her to seek knowledge through books, implying that his understanding may not align with conventional wisdom. The scene shifts to an open-air arena, where a group of trainees sits in a circle around a raised platform. An announcement rings out, informing everyone about the upcoming practical training session, which will involve one-on-one magical duels. The rules state that only spells with a 1-star rating are allowed, ensuring fairness among the participants. David, known for his aggressive demeanor, waits impatiently for the session to begin. His face contorts with anger, impatience, and frustration as he glares in the direction of Lucas and Isabel. The two of them engage in a conversation while sitting together, seemingly unaware of David's presence. Lucas couldn't tear his gaze away from the captivating instructor, Professor Jane. He found himself blushing and whispering about her beauty, much to the disapproval of Isabel. She scolded him, calling him crazy for speaking about a professor in her 40 seconds in such a way. Ignoring Isabel's disapproval, Lucas persisted in praising Professor Jane's beauty and challenged Isabel to see what true beauty looks like. The first match began as Professor Jane called Lucas and David to the stage. Their eyes locked, filled with anticipation for the battle. David approached Lucas cheerfully, expressing how torturous the wait had been. The bully is surprised as he watched Lucas slowly make his way toward Professor Jane. Lucas boldly took hold of the professor's hand and waist, gracefully dipping her down. He explains how meeting her had awakened him from a long slumber and revealed that his soul had lived longer than hers, despite his youthful appearance. He confidently invited her to join him for dinner that same evening. Blushing, the professor tried to push Lucas away. Undeterred, Lucas raised the stakes, proposing that if he emerged victorious in the match, she would grant him the privilege of taking her out to dinner. Professor Jane found it amusing that a trainee who could only cast 1-star spells would dare to challenge the formidable 3-star David. However, she was intrigued by Lucas's persistence and confidence. She wondered how she could have such feelings. Lucas left the professor and rejoined David in the center of the stage. Their battle ensued, showcasing their unique magical skills and strategies. Lucas, despite being considered an underdog, displayed unexpected talent and creativity in his spell casting. He used what seems to be a silly spell against David's family spell. In a stunning display, Lucas outwitted David and emerged as the victor, leaving the crowd applauding his unexpected triumph. The news quickly spread. People celebrated the defeat of the notorious David in the academy. Wherever Lucas walked, he drew attention. Suddenly, a figure who had observed the match approached him. Introducing himself as Duman Milos, a 4th-year trainee, he invited Lucas to the Traman Rings. Lucas regarded the upperclassman with little interest. Duman explained the exclusivity of the group. He proudly displayed his rune ring, a symbol of Traman Ring's membership. Lucas pondered if this organization was intruding on his privacy by using his name. While Duman listed the benefits of joining, Lucas walked away without showing any interest. Duman attempted to pursue him but was intercepted by another individual, Lord Peru and Jun, who had also observed Lucas's fight in the arena. He introduced himself as the manager of the Traman Rings. He was quick to apologize for Duman's behavior and extended an invitation for Lucas to join the Traman Rings. Impressed by Lucas' cool demeanor, he carefully weighed the offer. However, in the end, Lucas politely declined, making it clear that his decision was final. As he walked away, Lucas couldn't resist throwing a sarcastic comment, which only managed to further irritate Duman. But just as Duman was about to charge at Lucas for his shameless remark, Param and John stepped in to diffuse the tension. In the moonlit scene outside a fancy restaurant, Professor Jane is having her date with Lucas. However, surprise, surprise, Isabel is tags along. Despite Lucas's repeated requests for Isabel to leave, she ignores it and continues eating. Isabel brings up the topic of battling methods once again, capturing Professor Jane's attention. Jane admits to only hearing rumors about it in the Mage institution and finding no substantial information during her own research. She expresses her curiosity to Lucas, wondering if he possesses any knowledge of this elusive method. Lucas approaches the beautiful professor. Flustered, Jane's composure falters as Lucas embraces her from behind, hinting at continuing their conversation in a more private setting. He breaks down the Jane's composure, leaning in for a kiss. Unfortunately, their moment is abruptly interrupted by Isabel's reminding them to act appropriately. Outside the restaurant, a radiant full moon softly shines in the sky. Lost in thought, he gazes at the celestial display and ponders why the demigod did not erase his legacy. Isabel approached Lucas, her flustered expression catching his attention. Curious, Lucas asked about the most powerful figure in the academy. Isabel was taken aback by his childlike manner, but explained that Paramanjan was the strongest trainee, while Professor Dio Pulsman and Professor Adelia held high positions among the faculty. But Isabel's aunt, 6-star mage named Lady Cyrus Trisney, the director of West Rod Academy, is the most powerful one. Professor Jane joined by saying that the last one to achieve 8 stars was 3,000 years ago. Lucas gazed at the Academy's barrier, pondering its origins and suspecting something. Realizing he needed to meet Director Saras Trisney, he remarks that he should aim for at least 7 stars, but Jane would add on that it would take him up to 20 years. But Lucas is sure he could achieve it by the end of the vacation. With a bold move, Lucas approached the professor, holding her from behind, remarking that his dreams and love were both big. Their intimate moment is once again interrupted by Isabel. As a response, Lucas and Jane both express disdain for minors. If we jump in time to 2 weeks later, injured and recovering David rushes down the halls of the academy, shouting insults towards Lucas, claiming that there's no way he would lose without foul play. Students just stared at the pathetic David with contempt. Meanwhile, Lucas is engrossed in a book, minding his own business, just as David confronts him. Threatening to summon his allies, a swift magic missile propels David through the air, leaving him bloodied and frothing at the mouth, defeated once again. David retreats to his family's embrace. Lucas is suddenly called out by someone who demands his attention. An upperclassman named Alex Drimid. He wants revenge for David and calls him silly words. Lucas questions whether Alex is really bullying him at this moment, which further angers Alex. Lucas remarks that Alex is just boasting about his family and has the advantage of numbers. As Alex continues to talk, Lucas launches a magic missile, hurtling Alex toward his group. Angrily, his handyman is scolding him for striking a person who is talking. He has had enough of everyone's yapping and starts launching magic missile 4 more times until everyone is down. Later, in an academy lecture hall while Lucas is sitting on his desk comes Isabel. She informed him that the students had named him Death Missile for his amount of victories. For a moment, Isabel gets captivated by his charm and cuteness. They continue to talk the special mixture using troll's blood and magical essence that Lucas recommended. He suggested using half troll's blood for even better results. Isabel is eager to know more and asks for him to teach her more things. Lucas believed that with proper guidance, she can become an 8-star mage. He revealed his plan to train during the vacation. He invited her to join him, promising to demonstrate the art of battle firsthand. In the middle of his warning, Isabel cuts him off and immediately agrees to join. And so, Lucas embarked on a training journey with Isabel by his side. When we see Isabel carrying a huge bag, which got a big reaction from Lucas. As Lucas made the remark about not going camping, he raised an eyebrow and asked Isabel if she understood that. Isabel, with a hint of sass, explained that women have a lot of things they need and implied as a male, Lucas wouldn't understand. After calming down, she finally asked Lucas where they were headed, to which he admitted that he isn't entirely sure. Lucas mentioned the Hispania Mountains as a possibility, and Isabel's eyes widened in alarm. She exclaimed that the place was extremely dangerous, a paradise for monsters, and they definitely should not be going there. Despite her concerns, Lucas persisted and asked her how to get there. Lucas couldn't help but ask Isabel if she was scared. But her determination shone through as she told him that she didn't expect it to be easy from the beginning. Intrigued, Lucas inquired about the warp stone she had mentioned earlier. Isabel explained that it was a special stone used for teleportation over long distances. Lucas was surprised by how advanced technology had become compared to magic. Isabel cheekily informed him that those warp stones were quite expensive, and since the distance they wanted to cover was significant, it would cost them 10 gold coins. Lucas was taken aback and began rummaging through his bag, only to find a single gold coin. He turned to Isabel, hoping she had some money, but she disappointingly revealed that she didn't have any either. They started arguing about who should bring the money, but eventually, they calmed down and decided to head to the capital together. On their way, they came across a massive ship and discovered that as academy trainees, they could board for free. While waiting in line, Lucas couldn't contain his excitement about the food he would feast upon once they boarded the ship. However, just as it was their turn, they were stopped by a crew member who informed them that the ship was full. They were directed to another, less glamorous ship instead, leaving them feeling a bit let down. Meanwhile, a scene shifted to a group of pirates plotting to ambush the ship that the trainees were supposed to board. Returning to Lucas and Isabel, they finally met the captain of the ship, who reassured them not to pay too much attention to its size. He promised that it was a great vessel that would safely take them to their destination. He mentioned that they had 2 warships escorting them, each with a skilled 4-star magician on board, and no matter how many pirates came, they wouldn't succeed. However, just as the captain was reassuring them, chaos erupted. The passengers on board started screaming as pirates attacked the ship. A massive pirate vessel surrounded in an eerie blue light. The pirate ship unleashed its power, swiftly sinking all the escort ships, plunging Isabel and everyone on board into a terrifying and uncertain situation.